Well, hey guys, how are you? Welcome on into the Pegasus Actual Podcast for the evening. This is Drew Taylor, better known as Supreme Heretic from Bounding into Comics. You guys know me, and you know the show. We're just waiting on the rest of our panelists to get in, but tonight we've got some new faces.
Okay.
Definitely. Hey, Bear, how are you?
I'm using the actual browser that is attached to Twitter.
Oh, okay. Right on.
It's got the mobile version and it freaking works. What can I say? Hey,
Hey, there you go.
uh, our
Better,
video. I'm
better.
driving.
Car video.
Clap, clap.
Yep. But anyways, I want to introduce, of course, my dear friend Adega Outlaw. Adega's come in tonight, and he is our special guest, and of course,
Jerry
the
Lewis special.
the the absolutely lovely Jane Theory, who came in on short notice. Raquel couldn't be here tonight, and she had migraine issues, and I was reaching out, and one of the first people I thought of was Jane because she's very sci-fi knowledgeable, and she jumped at the chance to revisit Battlestar. So yeah, this is going to be really fun. And I think it's really fun for you, Jane, because you like this, don't you?
I do. I love the series. I haven't watched it in forever, but I'm gonna start.
Yeah. So tonight, guys, we are doing the episode Colonial Day. It's very interesting because we were talking behind the scenes that now we're really starting to see some of the seeds planted earlier in the season, and we kind of get into the political intrigue because now we're starting to ramp up to where the fleet is actually going to have elections, and for quorum representatives, and of course ultimately for the presidency. So yeah, I found it to be very awesome episode. This is one of the better ones. I don't know that it's necessarily up there on my favorite list, but it's very solid. So getting right into it, we sort of start off where they are. There's a group of political journalists talking about what's going to happen with these elections, and they're kind of going on and on, and I found that scene kind of funny where Ross is hearing all this on the wireless, and what the thing is she kind of gets ticked off like any of us would, where they're talking about there's a puppet quorum, and it's kind of it's really an authoritarian government in disguise and whatnot, and she's obviously she's getting upset. Welcome, Script Doctor. Good to see you.
Damn.
Good evening.
Uh, so she's kind of getting upset, and she makes the comment, freedom of the press, and I thought that was a great little comment because considering what's going on now, I'm sure currently a lot of particularly our president probably feels that way a lot about the media when he's got it on in the background or whatever. So yeah, I found that quite funny.
And I did like that too because it showed you. I liked how you got to see how the media can manipulate facts and circumstances and imagery, how the politicians do the same, but also how it can differ so much from what's actually happening behind the scenes. It's so layered.
Yeah, it really is. And then, I think that I think that the biggest thing that we have here too is when they find out that Tom Zarek is going to be the delegate for Sagittarian,
Mhm.
and or that he's running for that spot, and it's like, man, they've already gone through one tense situation, as we referenced earlier in the season, guys, with the third episode where eventually they let Zarek go. He's in charge of the prisoners on that prison ship and everything, and basically, he's since then we find out that he's gained some sway in the fleet, and and they show a little clip of him where he is talking over the wireless about the things that he's going to do for the people of Sagittarian and whatnot, and yeah, obviously you get that exchange there where Adama finds out about this, and he calls over to Colonial One. He calls the president, and she said, he basically he offers. He said, I can restrict travel so that he doesn't he can't move freely around,
Mhm.
and so the president's reaction to it is, I appreciate that, but if you do that, then it looks like the military is just my goon squad, and I can't allow that to happen. So
Right.
she said, we got to let this play out. So what did you guys think of that?
I loved it. Those are chess moves. But she was so confident too. She had her own plan for how to respond to what he was doing and playing to the press and playing to um, this narrative that he was trying to create, both about her and her administration, but also about what he was trying to create or what he was wanting to propose if he were to become um, essentially president. I mean, that's ultimately what he was trying to do. But I loved it. I thought that was really great writing on their part. And the actor was great as well.
Yeah, Adega, what did you think of that exchange?
I think the biggest thing that I noticed was more about, and it goes with the writing, is how they presented her character when it becomes under stress, not trying to save lives of the colonies, but now she was faced with trying to save the actual laws of the colonies. You talked about the media, getting involved, and whether or not Sarek should actually be on the council, and she has to obey the laws. And she does a real good job. You could see on her face where she just wants to stab the guy half the time or have someone shoot him, but she knows the laws. And instead of taking some type of wartime authority or something else, she bites her tongue and lets things play out. And I thought, you know what? That's pretty dang impressive, to trust the people more than she does her own gut.
Right. And she
Well,
so easily could have.
yeah, and the thing is that well, she realizes she's backed into a corner too. That just it basically, if she moves against Zarek and they were to go that route, that makes her look bad right off the jump, and they can't do that because obviously you want people to have faith in their government. You don't want them to, it sort of speaks to us as it is now. We're in a contentious situation in real life, guys. We've given, like it or not, no matter what side of the spectrum you fall on, whether you're Democrat, Republican, whether you're left leaning, right leaning, doesn't matter. right now. The facts are right now we put a lot of trust in the government's hands in the face of a really weird situation at the moment. And this episode sort of runs the parallels there to see just how important it is for the public to feel that they have trust in their government. Bear, what did you think of that exchange?
I thought it established Rosalind ability that she's able to handle multifaceted personalities in the political spectrum in Battlestar Galactica, and the religious aspect and what they believe in when they believe in their gods. Fairly really balanced. She proves that she can swim. She can tread water. And I thought it proved her character to be a very strong character.
Well, yeah, what's funny, Bear? You mentioned that religious aspect. A lot of the colonies, guys, they vote their representatives in based on the particular. In some cases, like the Sagittarians, have a very deep spiritual belief mixed in with their culture. And they tend to vote for leaders that work with that spiritual aspect as well. And I believe there's another colony like that too. I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head. I think it's the Libyans
They're
or
farmers,
something.
right?
The Sagittarians are. I can't remember if Sagittarians are farmers or not. It does. I don't think it.
Our farm close to growing things.
Yeah.
Got the robot going on there, Bear.
Like that.
Yeah, you got the robot going on there, Bear. I think you're going into a bad reception zone.
I'm getting ready to head over the Nisqually River.
Oh, okay. That's probably why. Script Doctor, what did you think?
Well, I mean, this is a pretty simple episode. It shows the corruptible nature of politics when you're trying to do a good thing. Basically, it plays along with the idea of the ends justifying the means, and who she's willing to manipulate and use in order to maintain the status quo, versus a person who's kind of trying to think outside of the box, being Tom Zarek, about the fact that there is nothing holding on to the status quo aside from our own illusions. And he's trying to sort of shake things up. Whether it's maniacal or not, we don't know yet in this series, but it's a very straightforward debate about and suspense about who's manipulating whom and how far is one party willing to go to get what they want. It's very straightforward story, which is it's nice. There's not a big C plot or B plot or D plot. There's little crumbs of other things happening, but its basic focus is just primarily on what is Rosalind's trying to open up the government to a bit more of a public forum and debate, and she's willing to roll with the punches and pay the consequences of what that means because she wants to maintain the illusion that things can get better and can get better while maintaining the status quo. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we've got the next sequence here, Script Doctor. Why don't you kind of explain this one where Kara walks into Baltar's lab and she informs him that a shuttle is leaving soon and gives him some news. So go ahead and explain that.
Well, it looks like the people of Caprica have requested that Baltar be their representative. So he now gets a free pass from doing his scientific work, even though he's not too pleased about it at first. That's basically what the scene is. It's primarily exposition, but it also allows for Angel 6 to give him an idea of what he can do with this new opportunity. And then it cuts to, of course, them going to Cloud 9.
Yeah, and I found funny about this exchange is when Kara just drops the bombshell on him. She's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the people of Caprica selected you to be their delegate. And like the look on his face was priceless. He's like, what? Is this a joke? You know? And it's just, I mean,
Well, it raises the question: who's going to be running those tests if he can't do it?
yeah, I know, but that moment was just priceless to me because the look on James Callis's face, like he played that so well.
All
He-
right.
he's, just,
Okay, there we go.
he's just such a good actor, script doctor.
He's British, so a lot of people fall for him being an actor. He's not that great. Don't let the accent fool you. He's not that great.
He was good in this.
He's adequate for this, but he is not that great.
Adequate.
But he has the accent. That makes all the difference, doesn't it?
It means
Right.
nothing. If it fools you, then you got to start traveling more. But
Nice.
Yeah, I should sound less roboty now.
Oh, there you
oh
go.
yeah, definitely.
Basically, what was going on is it was handing off from the Lakewood cell tower to the cell tower in Lacey.
Oh, okay.
That's what that was. That and I was behind a big semi truck.
Yeah. So Bear, what did you think about that exchange when they just dropped that bombshell in Baltar's lap, and he just, I mean, that look was priceless.
Flies could have flew when his mouth hung open so long.
Exactly.
And hey, I'm going by memory. It's been a few weeks since I watched that episode because I did a Battlestar Galactica marathon watch about 3-4 weeks ago. But yeah, his expressions of surprise are just always just like, wow, very funny.
All right, so
I didn't reach up and shut his mouth for him.
exactly. So the chat is busy tonight. We got a pretty nice amount of viewers. Of course, DJ Odyssey was first on the scene. So big props to Odyssey. Mars out there watching, and of course we have the unofficial Lady Queen Guardian of the BSG streams every Thursday, and that is Lady Mist. Lady Mist is in here joining us as always. Stone Loki is chilling in here. Loki's Mornings of Mischief. It's good to see him.
Yeah.
CJ is chilling, watching the stream, and we've got Twisted Mind Collision that just popped in. So it's good.
How many we got watching?
Right now we have 12. So it's
Awesome.
good.
Yeah, I can't really look at anything because I'm driving.
Yeah. So
And
That's a
Tommy
good thing.
arrived.
Don't look at the screen while you're driving.
the best mod on YouTube, Tommy, he just showed up. So welcome,
Hail
Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
And no, we got some boxy theories tonight. You know, it's kind of weird because Adega's sitting in the big chair with us tonight. So he's on panel duty, and Odyssey's taking it upon himself to carry the load for the boxy theories. So
Yeah, I'm feeling the pain, man. I'm itching, but I can't do it.
So Odyssey's first one from earlier is he said, pre-show Boxy theory. Boxy is hard at work changing all the squirrels in Supreme's cages to feed the power for him to run the stream. Oh, that's
All right.
Oh, so
I got
Boxy
it.
Earthbound now. Okay.
I have a little off the wall question.
yes.
Who has the bad cooling fan?
The what?
A bad cooling fan. I can hear it.
Let me see if I can move my boom. I got an old beast, but I don't think it's mine. If it's not,
I can. It's not real loud. It's just it's basically
yeah, it's
fan
not
noise.
loud. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
well, I'll
Everyone
mute
say,
myself unless I need
Tater,
to.
Like my mic is not where near any fans. Like no computer fan, no nothing.
Yeah,
it's gone now.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And back,
Everyone
And
say
back again.
goodbye to the stator.
yeah. It's
it's my end.
yeah, that's okay, Adega. You're fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
No biggie.
Yeah, so that was our first boxy theory, and then I'm trying to find the other one. There is no boxy, only Zool was the other one. And then Odyssey had another boxy theory. Boxy was used during the elections with this small size to stuff the ballot boxes. Okay, so we know who actually was making shenanigans in the elections. Boxy, all along.
Well, hey, hashtag Zool 8 boxing.
Tom Zarek had promised him a whole lot of benefits for stuffing those ballot boxes. Most of them illegal.
Well,
And-
Zool promised him he'd win the election.
God. All right, so we get into the next sequence here, guys, and this is where so Kara and Lee are assigned to be, the security detail for the assembled delegates. Their job is to kind of keep an eye out on the whole on the debates and everything, and make sure that nothing shady happens. And of course, they're providing security, and they have, obviously, Galactica has Marines on station and things like that, and so it starts to you start to wonder what happens, because you start to see if is somebody going to take a shot at one of the politicians, whatever. You start to wonder if
Well, who postulates the idea that someone could take a shot at one of the politicians? What character brings that up?
Well,
the one who wants to.
I think that I think that it's Lee.
I never even got that. I always thought Tom was the guy that was going to do it. He was the one that hired him. He looks guilty, smells guilty. And I bought right into the whole story thinking that's the direction it was going. I guess I was weak-minded when not even considering somebody else for it.
Sometimes stories like to trick us.
Well, what is really going on in this episode? This episode is about the responsibility of government, and Tom Zarek's the first one to point out that if Rosalind dies, there's no one left to fill in the power gap. Like, they don't have a massive infrastructure in their government anymore for another teacher to replace Rosalind, essentially. So he proposes a very, very practical proposition, which is they need a vice president, which is, I mean, their political structure is really strange because it's almost parliamentary in the fact that it's the Council of 12, the Quorum of 12, that nominates and then votes on who is the vice president, not the people. It's not quite like a super delegate type of issue or like electoral college. It's a bit more like a parliamentary thing where the people would tell their delegate who to vote for, and then they would vote as such, but it's in a presidential infrastructure. It's very weird. But I mean, yeah, that's the whole plot. Tom wants to be vice president and possibly will kill Rosalind, take over, and if he does it sooner rather than later, but if he doesn't, there's still an election in 6 months, and he's going to run against her, and it doesn't matter. He's just playing both hands. He's 4D chess, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, well, did you guys notice that little exchange too? Like where Lee kind of broke it up. There was a colonist that Zarek was walking into the conference where, they were like, you're a murderer, you don't belong here. And then one is there, somebody that is a Sagittarian, and I say that in air quotes, and he probably was a Sagittarian. He was one of Zarek's men. Kind of grabs the guy and says, hey, you got a problem? And then Lee walks up, and obviously, he pulls the big guy off the other guy, and said, and you lay hands on anybody else, you're going to wind up in Galactica's brig. So we start to kind of wonder what's going on. Okay, is Zarek setting something in play here? And then you see Zarek sort of walk into the line, and there's people there, obviously, to greet, all the candidates and whatnot, the delegates. And you have Ty and Ellen there. And it's funny because you can kind of notice, like, we talked about this with Ty's wife, how she loves attention, she craves attention, and she craves status. And boy, is she just trying to get her picture in the paper and be like the talk, one of the talks of the fleet. So she has this interaction, like Ty won't even shake Zarek's hand when he's introducing himself, but introduces Ellen, and Ellen, of course, is all but eager to meet Zarek, and he's like, "Oh, call me Tom," and Ellen's like, "Oh, yes, I look forward to seeing you again." And Ty asks her, "What was that about?" And she's like, "We're going to be on the front page of every paper in the fleet," and
are they even producing papers in the fleet? Because that would be a waste of resources.
Yeah, well, apparently, to a degree, they are SD from, or at least it insinuates that in the episode. But what's funny,
I figured it'd be more like a recorded wireless show that they would transmit out, if anything.
But what?
Hey,
yeah,
you forgot her one passion that she absolutely has to have.
What's that, Bear?
Young men.
Well, yeah, but Zarek's not exactly young. He's like
Zarek's older than Ty there.
Yeah, he's like what?
He's just better looking.
Well,
yeah,
Zarek's an attractive man as far as she's concerned.
Yeah, but no, the bigger thing is she's chasing clout, Bear.
Yeah, I think she's chasing it for both of them. I mean, this is a world in which social status matters. So to remain relevant, she's doing what she has to do. She's playing the game.
Oh yeah, that's what we were talking about with her introductory episode. She has no use in the colony. Like, she has no skills. She has nothing of value. She's too old to have children, so she is literally a sponge sucking up resources. So she needs to find some avenue of value. So what she's going to do, she's going to play the social game and manipulate people around to keep her situated in a nice standing, and try and see if she can elevate her husband, so it therefore elevates herself.
Exactly.
Yeah, and real quick in the chat, say what's up to Axonar Comics. Great to see Axonar up in here.
Hey.
Thank you for stopping by, buddy. Always good to see you, Axonar Comics. You rock, man.
Indeed.
But the thing is, though, I mean, Jane, I'm going to ask you from the female perspective because like there is a lot of women out there that chase clout, boy. You know this. you know this. So it's just I find it funny, like, Ellen's cool with like raising her husband's status up, but she knows it's all about me. I'm gonna get that attention. And what's funny is just like the way she goes about it, because as wonderful and awesome as women are, man, there is a lot that are out there that will chase clout like none other.
Well, she knows how to manipulate the press, which is what everyone in this show is doing at the moment.
She knows how to
She knows how.
She knows how to manipulate a lot of things, not just the press.
This is true.
It's true. But when she mentioned the photography and all that, I thought that was funny. How this image was going to look and how it would spread throughout. I love that.
Well, she also made a comment that said, she's also like, whichever way the wind blows, I'm following that. Because she makes that comment that says, Rosalind's the past, Zarek's the future. I don't understand why you can't see that.
It's about survival.
Yeah.
I mean, she knows that the political winds can turn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's definitely a manipulator, that's for sure.
Oh no.
Well, yeah, they're not trying to hide that.
Boxy theory.
Good at it.
What did you guys think, as he's going down the line there, the last part of the sequence, where Zarek and Rosalind have that exchange, and they have that moment where they greet one another, the nice what I like to call the international greeting, the kiss on the cheek.
That's a French greeting.
But yeah, it's what's funny is they have that little, they're talking under their breath, and you can hear he said, oh well, that's nicely played, because she's making it look good for the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So like as you said, Jane, and Zarek tells her, I'm not your enemy, and she said, well, we'll find out, won't we? and I thought that was like, ooh boy, it's getting high stakes pretty quick.
Yeah, that was a great line.
Well, it's just escalating tensions.
Yep. And
she ended up playing him because she's the one that compelled him to make the offer so that she could respond and gain the higher power. Like, yes, I'm in a position where I'm willing to listen to all people regardless of their past, and she follows the law. Like, he's served his time, so he's legally allowed to be in this position, especially when appointed. So she's rolling with it for image purposes, to show the people of the colonies that even though they're in dire situations with only 50,000 people to their entire society, they're still going to maintain the status quo, because she cherishes it, and it's what everybody grew up following.
So, DJ dropped another boxy theory on us, you guys. So boxy theory number 3, finding out Ellen loved younger men. Boxy snuck into her room late one night and was swallowed by what only men who survived could describe as a black hole. Not even light survives.
DJ is twisted.
Oh, God.
Pure and simple.
Oh, man. Odyssey is in rare form tonight. Troy Pacelli has arrived in the chat. Welcome, Troy. Good to see you out there. Palanuki is in the chat as well. It's good to see you, my friend.
Hail, Palanuki.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So we get into where they're actually on the stage now.
Yeah, the president, I guess, is running the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
She proposes the agenda. I guess they have 3 days to discuss the topics on hand.
I like how they're. I like how they pan around the room and Baltar is like sleeping. he's got his head down. He's so sleepy.
He's exhausted.
Well, yeah, he's been working on blood tests nonstop for, let's see, it's 47 days into their escape from occupied Caprica. We're looking at what they've been doing this test for like two weeks maybe straight.
Yeah.
Did anyone else get the feeling when you were watching that scene that it was like she was the only adult in the room and they were just herding up high schoolers to try and pretend like they're playing political class?
I would say, yeah, Rosalind and even Tom Zarek felt more mature and cogent with what he was doing. So it was basically a battle of those two on their hands. And then everybody else was just driven by their own personal interest and ego, as opposed to what's better for the community. Because what the Quorum of 12 sort of highlights is that even though this is the last drag of humanity, they're still divided by their own petty issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn a little bit about that later on with Gemini, and I guess voting for Tom Zarek because they waste more water and they wanted more rations, and Rosalind refused. So, you see the political game of the quid pro quo. There's a little bit of, I guess a few years after this show ended, there's another movie that came out called Charlie Wilson's War, which really explored the the backhand
Oh, I
dealings
remember that,
of
yeah.
like
Good movie.
what you have to give up and trade in order to accomplish an end goal. And then as soon as that goal is done, how everybody who helped you up that far will just turn their backs and move on to something else because they only saw the short-sighted target, not the long-sighted target. And that's kind of what's going on here. Rosalind is kind of thinking on the long game, but she's only thinking about it in what everybody is used to. And Zarek's thinking about the long game because there's no real infrastructure. Like, he makes all these great points about uniting the community and getting everybody to work together to sort of carry us on to when they eventually find Earth. But we know he doesn't have a real plan. He's just doing it for power.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, SD, I want you to kind of highlight that little exchange there. As Baltar is sitting there, he's woken up by Angel 6, and she kind of turns him on to the fact that, hey, that reporter over there is checking you out. And of course, Baltar thinking with the little head over the big head, he's noticing really quick. And then they have that little exchange of dialogue, and she's like, just remember, I still have you. She basically lets him know that she still has him under her control.
Mhm.
So what did you think? So what did you?
I
think
don't care about that. Like, personally, I don't care about that. That is not even like on the radar of what's actually important with regards to the story. Like, Baltar's arc here is not so much like the sex-driven stuff. That's boring because he gets it so easily, and he otherwise shouldn't because he's a short, little, insecure man. But aside from that, because it's very contrived that he gets these beautiful women. It's really weird. But aside from that, this is all about the fact that he's kind of rediscovering new avenues of entertainment, attention, and power. And that's what Angel 6 is manipulating him to do. Like, he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't care. But as soon as the attention gets his way and he's asked to speak, he's, the king of gab. He's really good at presenting what the ideas are and supporting the current administration. And we know where that, having seen the episode, we know where that leads. It leads to a conflict to Tom Zarek's own plan.
And and also, like, right after that, script doctor, there's a thing that you were alluding to where she Zarek says, after she recognizes Sagittarian as the president's continuing on in her speech about her agenda and what's going on.
It's not her agenda, it's the agenda. Like,
Yeah.
there's a big difference. You don't want to conflate those two.
Right.
When it comes to Baltar, he's got that magnetic personality. He's got that chemistry.
No, he
in his
doesn't.
personality.
He talks
Yeah,
to
he
himself.
does.
He masturbates in public. He does nothing about him. There's no chemistry.
I have to agree with Bear because it didn't matter what part of his life. When he was back on Caprica, he worked as an engineer, used his brain, and he got put way up on the list of scientists. And there may have been smarter.
I'm not
They said he was
disputing his
great.
intelligence. I mean, like,
No, but the thing is you put him in whatever circumstances he is. I mean, he became a refugee, and then he's on the Galactica, and then he becomes a politician. It doesn't matter which situation, or even after that, later on in the story where he becomes a religious leader. The guy, for some reason, there's those people in the world that just, you can throw them in crap and they flower. It doesn't matter where they are, and he's one of those.
Yep.
Yeah, for some reason
Absolutely.
he holds sway over people easy. For whatever
He's got
reason.
the gift for gab. He can talk, man. Talk your socks right off.
And
maybe it's true that other people see something in him, despite his outer appearance and behavior.
I mean, because
I look at him and I think he's a refined Morlock from the Time Machine. Like, he's got the long hair, the flat face, the weird nose, the long jawline. Like, and he's tiny. So, like, it's just weird. But, we're not gonna dispute the fact that the show allows him to get some action here and there. And there's no debate with regards to his intelligence. He's definitely very, very smart. But his own issues, being that he follows his libido more than his mind. That's what led to the destruction of his race. So
Well, see, that's funny though. Like back when I ran the Pegasus actual fan community, when we had during the height of the show, when the show was still airing, it's again, it's funny that you have this outlook, SD, because the majority of our female members at the time on our forum in our community, the female population was torn between Lee and Baltar.
I'm not surprised by that.
They
they're the only two young male characters in the show besides Hilo, and nobody's interested in Hilo. You only get like 30 seconds of him an episode.
I mean, hey, look, I gotta give Hilo props. We had a pretty nice contingent of gals like willing to hang out with Tomo Pennikin.
Well, it's not about that's not the thing that I'm talking about. I'm talking about screen time. Baltar's got the most screen time of any male character in this show.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives more opportunity to get involved in this character. It allows you to really exploit the charm, which allows you to get that female fan base. Jamie Bamber has actually been missing from one episode so far this season. He's been virtually not in it. And Hilo on the entire first season, I don't think he's had more than 3 minutes of total screen time in the 11 episodes we've seen so far. So you're not getting to know these other characters. You're basically tilting the scales towards Baltar for being your young male lead. And when you do that, you're basically just manipulating your audience to attach themselves to Baltar. And because you have Angel 6, who is this gorgeous Adonis-like level woman, it's basically sort of manipulating your female audience to be like, hey, if that chick likes him, there must be something there. So I'm going to pay a bit more close attention and see what it is I can do.
Yeah, I think Axonar kind of underscored it right there. Hilo did not get screen time, that's for sure. Just enough to make you wish you had a little bit more, and
barely at some points.
and that's right. Odyssey, take care, buddy. Guys, I want to make sure that we send really quickly good thoughts and good vibes out to DJ Odyssey. He's got a few issues. He's not feeling too hot, and I just want to say wish him well and feel better, my friend. So send some good vibes before he goes, chat. And,
take care of yourself, DJ, and take it easy. And we'll be
here.
here,
Odyssey.
You better be back next week. I don't want to be doing boxy on my own.
First and
raising.
Oh wait! Oh God, that didn't sound right. I don't want to be doing boxy on my own.
And you got it.
Oh God!
It's a group effort for that little guy.
Oh jeez, oh man! Oh my gosh! CJ, you came into the right twisted little podcast here. So here we see. We see a gentleman carry a briefcase, and he walks right past the armed guards, which I find is funny. He's carrying this obvious black briefcase. And,
what's so obvious about it?
Well, it's just like there's Marines. There's Marines standing around. He walks right past them.
So everybody else has got packages and bags and briefcases. They got an X-ray machine. There's nothing obvious about it. We know there's obvious because we see it intercut with these packing, papers and a gun underneath. It's obvious to us. It's not obvious on the actual context of the scene or of the show. He's just a normal. He could be a journalist. He could be a court reporter. He could be anything. You can't just say it's obvious. It's not. It's just normal. It's just slipping back through the system. I mean, that's like saying a person having a razor blade hidden in his shoe. That's obvious because he's wearing shoes walking through security. No, it's not. It's normal. Don't try to make it bigger than it actually is. What ends up happening is the interesting part is the dramatic irony of this scene where he's packed that briefcase with fake documents. He's put a gun in there. It's gone through the X-ray machine and it passes. It doesn't register. That's the thing that you got to pay attention to because that builds the tension for what's about to happen later on. It's not about the obviousness. It's about the irony.
I totally agree with that. It was a setup for the audience and not for the characters or the actors or for the actual players in the story. You know, it was careful manipulation of your eyes, your ears, and your thought patterns to say, hey, you know what? Here's where the drama is. Look at this. And everyone else is going to be dumb to it except for you because we let you in on our little bit of the story.
Exactly.
Well,
It's the ticking time clock underneath the dinner table while this couple's having a boring conversation on a date. We know that bomb's going to go off. They don't. We're worried to see if they're going to figure out that it's there or not.
yeah. Well, the thing is you know, I think a big bombshell right here is right in the middle. You know, they Zarek, like you said, he just perfectly positioned himself for the vice presidency, and then of course, you know, there was enough votes among the delegates to, you know, legitimately cement him in there on to install him as the vice president, and then the look on Rosalind's face as she's adjourning that first meeting for the day is just, oh my goodness, it just, you could see the terror wash over her face, like, oh my god.
And that's the thing with her too. Yeah, that's the thing with her too, because I don't think anyone, including, and they played it well with the story, is no one was surprised that that was exactly what was going to happen. Her face was, I knew this was going to happen. Now I'm completely disgusted with the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of people, she's essentially was, from the public perspective, she was caught with her pants down because someone brought up a topic that she didn't put on the agenda, which is a very important topic about the stability of government. And then as soon as Baltar, seconds the motion for a vice president vote, she's like, crap, I can't get the stuff that I think is more important done. But then at the same time, I have to realize, yes, I am dying and no one else knows about this. So whether I make it or not, there better be someone behind me that's going to carry out what we need to do in order to survive. And I don't think it's anyone on this quorum that's going to be able to meet those standards. So like that's the conflict that she's facing. She's now stuck in an area that she wasn't planning for, even, and it was something that she would eventually have to address. So she's being forced to address it sooner rather than later. And later on in the on Colonial 1, her assistant, who's been like co-running the infrastructure, has reminded her that she had weeks to appoint a vice president beforehand, and now she can't do it. So she's paying the piper for her own lack of organization.
Yeah, and my God, she, like, again, the acting is so good. Like their facial expressions, the thing like that. It was so just riveting when you see her face.
And how she went from, because she did have this sort of shocked, panicked look initially, but it also transformed to determination.
Yeah,
you could tell
like
the real
she's
part.
That's a good point.
Yeah, she's got a
That's a
goal
good
now,
point.
which is not to make sure Tom Zarek does not become my vice president.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
She kind of reminds me of my wife. You know what? Great to be around. Never, ever be on that woman's bad side, because hell in all its fury is just right on the nick of tearing you apart if you piss that woman off.
So pretty much like we she's then after back on Colonial 1, she's like she's like, Tom Zarek is not gonna be my vice president.
It's not gonna happen.
Right. That's great. You want to take us through the next sequence here, Script Doctor? I got to step away for a second, use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay, well, I mean, the next story beat really is who is Rosalind going to nominate for her VP now that Tom Zarek has been nominated. So she goes to this, was his name Wally or Will? One of those two?
Wallace,
yeah. So she asked Wallace, and he's like, I don't want to do it, but she's like, you're the only person who's really been keeping this administration and getting everybody the supplies and things they need together, you're the best candidate. And it kind of goes back to the normal form. Sorry, and in the interim, Lee is sitting at a bar. He's listening to the radio where Tom Zarek's accepting his nomination for vice president, and he's getting frustrated that he doesn't want to listen to it. Asks to have it shut off, and that causes an altercation with the gentleman he asked not to be physical with other people a little earlier. This escalates into a really poorly shot fight, in my opinion. Like, it's a lot of shaky cam, quick cuts, really trying to boost the chaotic moment going on here. And in the scuffle, the gentleman with the briefcase and the gun hidden inside gets kind of roughed up a little bit, loses his gun. Kara sees it, goes after him. It's Lee's trying to get away from this big guy that's kind of pinning him down, and Kara's still got the gimp knee and the cane, and she manages to, get him under control with his own gun, and that's your act break there. So what were your thoughts about, like, was I the only one that thought this scene looked kind of shoddily? I mean, it was well structured in regards to what the action behavior, the conflict, the resolution, but just the actual combat I thought was poorly shot cinematography.
I agree. It was difficult to follow exactly what was happening. But there was a moment there where Kara shouted gun, and there was no public reaction to that. Or at least not what
that's so weird, right?
It was like no screams, nothing. That was just kind of bizarre.
I have always found this difficult, maybe because I've had a significant amount of martial arts training, but it seems to be almost cliche with me, or however you would do it with images instead of words, where he was struggling to get a bottle to smack the guy in the head instead of using his fist or doing something else.
Like hitting his fist against the guy's ears, discombobulation, a lot.
Yeah, or if you could just reach the gun, or if you could just reach the knife, or if you could just do this, like, if your hand's that free, why aren't you using it instead of it? And that always bothered me. And I think it's a cheap way to get into a fight scene. One of the few nitpicks I have about those type of situations, and one of the few things I had to complain about this episode, that was a good point of bringing that up, because it didn't look like a real fight. It looked like a plot filler.
And I would expect that from a layperson, but he is well trained. So that's
I mean, he got bear hugged, which those are really difficult to get out of, especially the way he was held. Like, he was held just below the elbow, so he couldn't even bend his arms around, which good hold. But yeah, this kind of felt like a contrived moment just so they could find the potential assassin who happened to conveniently be at the same bar.
But then when he had him on the ground, he still grabbed the bottle and hit him with. Like, you have him. He's down.
Oh, he hit him once, and then he hit him with it again, and it finally broke, because that was a pretty sturdy bottle. And those have got to be valuable, because I don't think they can recycle or remake those. I don't think there's a ship out there that has like a bottle making factory on it.
Foxy takes care of the broken glass.
Sweeps it up, melts it down, reforms
they
it.
Put a conveniently placed stick on his body and just kind of use him as a big mop.
Oh God!
As gimpy as Kara's leg is, she moves around pretty darn good.
Oh, you can move pretty fast with just one leg. I've seen it. Like, I've also seen senior citizens, like in their late 90s, leap from a wheelchair and make a 100-meter dash in like 12 seconds to an open door just to get away from the hospital they're in.
Yeah.
So, like,
all until the adrenaline wears off. And
yep.
the older you get,
And then they start feeling it. Yeah. And especially with a girl like Kara, who is knows how to trigger that adrenaline rush pretty quick, given her living on the edge nature.
Yeah, I kind of find it funny though. Like I understand it was for reasons of the story, but I never. One thing I think I had a minor nitpick with was just that they had like you would think they would have like a warrant officer or like a Marine, like somebody that was like a lieutenant type, like just a officer dedicated more to ground ops in charge of stuff like this. But
I don't know if they would have the infrastructure in place because aren't we only understood to be like a prison ship, and then Battlestar Galactica is the only type of like authority going on in here. Like I don't think there's any police civilian ships that managed to escape.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's rare to see, like I guess pilots doubling in charge of ground ops.
Well, they're not just pilots; they're colonial warriors, right? So they're supposed to be all-purpose.
Colonial officers, yeah.
Colonial officers, yeah. Oh, right. Warriors is the original series. But they're colonial officers. They're stuck in a situation where they have to be versatile because there's gaps to fill, and they have training to do so. Like they do have military training in some regards. So they have to play more roles. They have a larger deck of cards they have to deal with.
Well, it's just like our pilots in the military. There's real stories of them being down. They're not trained just to fly. I know they call it the chair force, but these guys know how to shoot. They know how to run. They know how to break bones.
They have to do survival skill training for up to 6 weeks,
right?
Minimum. So yeah, they have to be multi-purpose soldiers in a sense. Like it's not just the Air Force, but even in the Navy, you're taught how to operate on a boat. If you're part of the flight team there, you learn how to fly, and then you also learn ground assault. So you have to be versatile like that. It's to the benefit of your soldier and your armed forces to get them all well versatile. So these colonial officers, they're playing a whole lot of different roles, trying to maintain order without overstepping the bounds and responsibilities of the people. And so yeah, like there's not going to be a normal infrastructure here. Now, if this wasn't a group of 50,000 people, but they're on a planet, then yeah, you would see the proper authorities, the proper departments get involved and pursue this as they should. But I mean, even I think there's only like the presidential secret service essentially for there, and it's like, what is that, like a dozen guys at most, like 2 of them watching the metal detector and the rest kind of just mobilizing around the president. That's about it. Like, remember, these are limited resources. We're not going to see any sort of infrastructure here.
Right.
Plus, it's Cloud 9. What could go wrong on Cloud 9?
Well, there's the irony for you, right? But also, I love that little part where Zarek points out that there's a groundskeeper on Cloud 9 who's doing his job, and for what? Because he's not getting paid, and like there's no reason for him to do it, and how important is it? Of course, I'm looking at it, it's like, okay, you have a Cloud 9. I think that's kind of like a really useful thing to have to get people sort of away from cabin fever. They can come here for maybe a week at a time, get a little bit of simulated outdoor exposure, and then return back to the responsibilities on the fleet.
Well, let's put it where it's at, guys. Again, we're drawing a parallel right now to what's going on in reality because of the situation we're in currently. You have to wonder, just how sometimes we take different things for granted, like people that do like the most mundane you would think of jobs, but now that we don't have essentially that freedom of movement, or we don't have some of the creature comforts we're used to outside of in our homes, it becomes a thing where you think of hey, look, those people are important to our lives, even if we don't think on a surface level, we take that for granted. But there's a lot of jobs out there that are important to us after all, for our sense of normalcy. And I think Script Doctor, you're speaking to that right now, and that makes a great deal of sense. That's an excellent point, actually. What do you think about that, Jane?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does demonstrate that his role was more important than it seemed. I mean,
Mhm.
creating an environment where people could feel alive again and
Mhm.
not like they're stuck is important. I mean, that's one of the criticisms people had about the quarantines and how far it would go, whether people would still be able to go to the park, whether they would be able to just basically leave their house or simply be stuck inside, and the effects that would have on someone's mental state. So yeah, I mean, it's incredibly important, especially in that environment.
Have to thank Bear for the couple of sunset, excuse me,
Yeah,
Sunset images, yeah.
shots.
it's going from sunset and going to be dusk here in a little bit, and figured I'd share it because sunsets in Washington State are pretty magnanimous, pretty awesome.
Twisted Metal's funny in the chat.
No, Twisted Mind.
Yeah, I was just in a store and they had music playing, so I had to keep it muted.
No, it's
They're
not
playing
that. Like
I'm sure there would be a copyright strike on that.
Twisted Mind Collision is asking, Bear, are you tearing paper or doing blow?
It smelled like, or sounded. Wow, I'm really screwed up. It sounded like you were snorting something.
Oh, you probably heard the engine starting. Yeah, I started the engine and I wasn't muted.
Tell that to the police.
Well, yes, sir, I do have
Oh, that's just
insurance.
engine powder. That's
Yeah.
the engine.
I'm a good boy. I don't do that stuff no more.
No, we know.
Yeah, I got my 48th birthday was 21 years clean from cocaine.
Congrats.
Wow.
Yeah, congrats.
Hey, once upon a time, I knew someone who went to NA, and I remember that the edict: people, places, and playthings. When you have an addiction, you got to get away from people, places, and playthings. And so I left Indiana. I left Gary and went out to Olympia, Washington, and I've been in this area on and off for since '99, January. This place is beautiful.
So, we're getting into that was actually really cool, Bear. By the way,
Well, yeah, that gets us back onto Cloud 9 because he's clearly there right now.
yeah.
I'm in the land of milk and honey when it comes to all the micro-brewed ale.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
But
And I just ordered one of those suction cup phone holders, so that way
nice.
position the phone in the widescreen angle and do some car videos. My God, I just seen a guy went from the turning arrow to the next turn.
Nice.
It's a good thing people weren't trying to get over in there. That'd been a nice little accident.
I thought you were in Washington, not Michigan.
They cannot drive. See, what's going to happen here, normally this is the rainy time and it's raining. We've had 3 beautiful days, 55-degree weather that felt like 60 degrees and sun shining. Because normally this time of year in sunshine, it's cold. It's like at nighttime, if it's a clear sky, it gets, about 36 degrees. And if it's raining, it stays between 45 and 55.
Nice.
All winter long.
Well, that's
And
cool.
January, November, December, and January are normally the coldest months. They get into the teens sometimes.
Yeah.
But not often, though. Goes through staging.
But yeah, back to the episode. We missed a little exchange there. Script Doctor Cylon occupied Caprica, where we see Hilo and Athena sort of scouting out the former Colonial military base, and it's just super fortified. They know that they're not going to get in there, and then they have like a little conversation because Hilo is wondering about why why are there multiple copies or why are there duplicates of the Cylons? Are they cloning people or whatever?
Well, he didn't call them Cylons first. He was wondering why was that woman there again, and he was wondering if Cylons were cloning people. So he's basically trying to speculate and figure out a logical answer to what he has seen because it's not adding up to his experiences so far. And Sharon takes this opportunity to say, well, if they are cloning humans, they may be indoctrinated and not know exactly what's going on and what the emotions behind it. And of course, Hilo is taking the opportunity to say, no, it doesn't matter. They're still Cylons. They can't be changed. And that's kind of breaks Sharon's heart at the moment. And that's pretty much the end of that scene. It's like it goes by quick, but we know their plan is basically break in, grab a ship, find Galactica, and then go from there.
But I love watching him piece that together. He doesn't get a lot of TV time, but when he does, it's meaningful.
Yep,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice exchange. I thought that was pretty cool because it's sort of as we go down the road between Hilo and Athena, we start to see we start to kind of see the evolution of them, their relationship getting deeper. And name of the Discord channel, Adega, is Supreme Heretics Tomb. That's my Discord. But if you go to the next interaction we have, it's with Lee and Kara interrogating the prisoner.
What's his name? Valance?
Yeah, Valance. And they're trying to...
He looks like a grown-up Boxy.
Yeah. Scary. Oh, my God.
There's Boxy theory number 4 or 5 for the today's show. Boxy found a maturation chamber, grew up as an adult, and became an agent of Tom Zarek.
Oh, you just beat me on that one. I was gonna go with the hormone therapy, but the maturation gosh, I can't even talk. I'm gonna shut
I've been
up
there.
But yeah, that they're trying to link him to Valance, and then this is where we start to get into a slippery slope. So we see Apollo head back to he's walking with the president. Obviously, he's on Colonial 1, and he's telling her that we leaned on Valance hard, but we didn't get anything. And she's basically desperate to find a connection between Valance and Zarek, and she's like, I don't care what has to happen here. The surveillance needs to continue on Zarek. You need to bug his phone, whatever, find out what's going on. And this again.
Hey,
yeah.
Let me interrupt you a minute. That right there is Mount Rainier.
Just on the right?
It's straight ahead. It'll come into view again as soon as I get past this bridge. Because I'm driving east right now. And you'll get a look at Mount Rainier. Because the sun's hitting it, it's all lighting up. Mount Rainier is on the other side of Tacoma. South of it. Southeast.
We're all waited on bated breath. Haven't seen mountains in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's funny though. Like you kind of notice in that exchange, like the sort of parallel between art and life again, because of now we're talking about surveillance on other politicians, and we've gone through this already. Between there's been a lot of accounts that the previous administration in real life here in our country may have spied on
between those trees you see Mount Rainier peeking up.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, if you enlarge my window, you'll be able to see it real good.
That's what she said?
Sorry. Well, I like the interrogation scene a lot because Lee is using all of the terminology that Tom Zarek used about the state of the colonial society against him. He's saying like there is no law, there's no money, so like any excuse you have is BS. We know you're working for Zarek. Just tell us just tell us the truth, and we'll go from there. But the guy won't speak, and Lee gets a little bit more violent.
I mean, and they also think that they're trying to stop a
There it
potential
is.
terrorist
In
attack.
its glory.
Yeah, a terrorist
Green
attack, or
grab.
at least a power grab. Yeah.
Right. So they're engaging in the types of powers that our NSA has now and
Yeah.
will forever have.
Yeah. I mean, it's just again, it's like art imitating life here, and
Well,
yeah,
there's always been wiretaps on people because remember, like he's not. Tom Zarek isn't really in the biggest position of power right now. He's just a representative, but because of his sordid past, she's asking for these measures taken. It doesn't really parallel life now because regardless of whatever was said, currently the authorities have already claimed that didn't actually happen, but it's not within the possibility of it could happening again or another office doing it. So it's not really like you're really doing a bigger reach than what's actually here. On top of that, Roslin may have asked for it, but we don't know that any of it was actually done or not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big difference here because this is all happening relatively fast, and things change into Roslin's favor where there's no need for her to even follow it up with, wiretap and massive surveillance, all that type of stuff. It's not needed anymore by the end of the episode. So
well, and here's like a there's like a interesting exchange between Lee and Zarek when they're sitting in the quorum chamber, and he said, "We got balance, and you're next." So
yeah,
Lee,
I thought that was a dumb move to say. Don't tip your hand to the person you're investigating. because they told him he got balance, we know that Tom Zarek's going to do something about that, and he manages to do something about that. Because what happens next time they go back to interrogate Valance?
Right.
Well, that shows Lee's inability to be a good investigator because the best of them, like you said, they don't say a word. You will never know.
He's a bit of a hothead, so.
well, we're so we get into interesting exchange here with Ellen and Zarek in the bar, and she's sort of trying to work that socialite status. If you want to touch on that a little bit, Jane.
Well, I mean, it's the same, game she's been playing all along. Just, I guess, trying to close the deal.
Yeah, because you notice how she says, I'm just kind of wanting to ensure my my place and my husband's place.
Right. She wants to make sure they're on the same page.
And then it cuts back to the interrogation room, and they find Valance is dead.
Mm.
So then Lee and Kara are.
How did he die?
Yeah, that's what they're trying to find out because they're.
No, he slit his wrist. They know how he died. It's not. They're trying to find out how it happened, who did it, or if it was self-inflicted.
That's what I'm trying to say. They're in oh shit mode now. It's like grab the oh shit handle. We're going in.
Well, their entire investigation is now ended.
That kind of reminds me. Back when I used to have a Volkswagen Jetta GLI, everyone said, "Grab the oh shit handle. Bear's driving." Because I used to at one point drive like a madman.
Nice.
I once did 142, 145 through the Pocono Mountains on the highway that goes through the Poconos.
Cripes, were you on cocaine?
No.
Oh, God.
Just crazy, didn't fear nothing. If I was going to meet the maker, I met him before, so I wasn't afraid.
He was on the accelerator.
But you might take somebody with you if you're driving them and they need to grab the oh shit handles.
Very, very, very confident in my driving at that point.
I'm glad you are.
I could do things with a car back then that would make you very, very, very afraid.
Well, this means that I'm paying attention.
I once outran a cop in a Honda Civic. It was an 81, little 4-cylinder engine. Man, you ever see a little car turn a corner on 2 wheels?
Oh gosh.
Once upon a time, I used to live the life, eh?
Yeah.
And of course, I got a text message from the wife. Too late. I'm pulled in, and it's like, okay, there's the honey get bust. Okay, all right. That's not happening because I just got home. But yeah, I used to drive like a madman.
Well, Bear, once the prisoner got killed, like, what did you think Lee and Kara's next move was going to be?
Quietly freak out mode, basically, is what they were kind of doing, but they weren't showing it. You basically you got a ship where murder happened, and the murder is on the ship, and then people starts hearing about that. It's like, it's hard to keep people calm when everyone knows there's a murderer. They're freaking out. And it's like they're looking at each other like, "Did you do it? Did you do it?" And so everyone, basically, whoever's investigating, everyone's suspect.
Well, they haven't even started an investigation yet, but they basically treat it like they just lost a race because they thought they were going to get him and they were going to be able to put him back in jail or at least get him off the off the quorum of 12, and they're all their eggs in that one basket just died. And Adega, you probably noticed this, how they slit the wrists properly on the guy.
Yeah.
They cut along the vein as opposed to perpendicular to the vein.
Right. I've actually have seen in past dealings with patients people that have tried and failed because they have done it the wrong way. And that was kind of, I don't know if it was someone who did their homework or they had known someone who actually did it. You never know with
it's tragic when you find out the real way.
Right. And
I need to laugh at that, but I'm just uncomfortable when I talk about it.
Yeah, I see scars around people's necks, how they failed, but that one, it looked like someone actually knew what they were doing. And I totally agree with you. They step into this, they have this guy chained up, he's being interrogated, and they're thinking, you know what, we got this just about wrapped up. We can pat ourselves on the back, and then all of a sudden, the rug gets pulled out from underneath them, and that had to be a lot of disappointment that they were hiding.
And fear, because if they suspected that there was someone else out there.
There's that, yeah. Someone else is working with Zarek, and on top of that, Zarek's not going to be going away now anytime soon. So they got to put up with him for however long he manages to stay ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
You're about to hear my boys get loud.
Yeah. So the thing is here, Rosalind is sort of having a briefing on Colonial 1 with Kara, Lee, Ty, and Baltar is simultaneously holding an interview with the press, and he kind of goes on, and I don't know. He has that. It's like you were saying, Script Doctor. He has that way of talking.
Yeah, he was asked a question. He made a really good point, and I liked how it was contrasted with the scene on Colonial 1, because everyone around that room aside from Rosalind is kind of freaking out, but Rosalind's just listening to the interview and she's just hatching a plan in her head, being like, "This is the guy that's going to help me not lose to Zarek."
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the look on her face. I liked how everybody else was kind of too occupied on the thing that's already happened, and she's already like, "That's over, it's done. I'm looking ahead now because I've got to stay ahead. I've got to catch up. This is a race and a battle of wits." And yeah, she formulates that plan and then has to break the news to Wally that he's got to drop out as the nomination, or else split the vote, so that she can get Baltar and use his popularity to her advantage.
That was a good scene too, because that I could feel the hurt.
Yeah,
It was an
I mean,
epic move, though.
it was a brilliant political move, first on strategy, but you can see how this guy just reminds her that she wasn't this type of person, and that this office has clearly changed her, and he's hoping that it's not going to, corrupt her as it did the other people, and not necessarily corruption as an abuse of power or anything, but just corrupting as the moral code, the way that they play the game, in order to ensure a positive outcome.
That made me feel for that guy too, because here they took a half hour of their time. Well, of course, it was only like 5 minutes in the movie to sit here and pump this guy up that, yeah, you can be a VP, and then just turn around for political reasons. And of course, the guy's going to be relieved because he didn't want the job to begin with. But he looks at Rosalind and says, "You've got evil in you. There's a streak in you that, just like you said, this was not part of you, and the game has changed you. You aren't changing the game."
But I think that was unfounded. He should have been on board. He should have understood this is a numbers game, and if he couldn't win, somewhere to sit down.
I think he did
we have a
understand
goal
that,
here.
but I don't think he took the fact that she's asking him to lie well, because he's saying, "Yeah, this is fine, but what are you going to do about me?" And she's like, "You're going to drop out for health reasons." And he's like, "Really? That's how you're going to do it? Not just going to tell them the truth that we're going."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she could always tell the truth. She'd be like, "Listen, I after careful consideration, I realized that Wally is in a better position where he is now, making sure everybody gets the resources they need in these difficult times. But Baltar seems to be the person who reminded me that, yeah, we need to think further ahead." He made his very scatterbrained like argument when he seconded the motion, and he seems to be responding well to people's questions, and I have utmost confidence in him because of his experience, his knowledge, and expertise. Like, boom, there you go. You're completely honest, and you do it. And she could do that, but she didn't. She played the tricker. She played the politics game. She played it through deception.
That was a concern that it would have made her look weak, though.
I
or
find it
made her realize that she's vulnerable, but at the same time confident enough in herself to, change course early enough so it doesn't negatively impact the rest of the people.
I find it absolutely funny too that they were having that conversation in the bathroom, and then when Rosalind leaves, the one reporter that had been flirting with Baltar previously walks out of the stall, and she's like, "Wow," and she's like, she's like, "What are you going to do now that you're potentially the VP?" And then of course Baltar, again thinking with the little head, guy being a guy, he said, "Oh, I'm going to give you an exclusive." And
that's just good innuendo.
They go back for round 2, and then we cut to Galactica, and
meanwhile, I'm thinking germs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It may be the Cloud9 washroom, but he was clearly interrupted, pretended like he was finishing in the stall, went and washed his hands. Rosalind didn't touch him or even congratulate him, walked away, and then he just returned to get back on business.
Yeah, we have we cut back to Galactica. We have a little banter between Lee and Kara. And you can kind of start, some of the throwaway banter they have, it just kind of shows they're sowing the seeds for their romance.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's really just a bridge scene to give that little hint of something potential, but allowing them to get to the actual voting tally. Like it's just that break. They can't go straight from the Baltar boning a journalist to, hey, okay, let's go tally the votes to see who's going to be the new VP. It's just you need that extra beat to ease people into the change of tone that's about to happen.
Do you
Gee,
think
that
that was
don't look
deliberately
fishy.
done, or just they were doing foreshadowing and that was the spot to put it in, or you think it was a combination of both?
Oh, it was definitely foreshadowing, and they found a good spot to put it in. Like when you're breaking down a story, you have all your threads of what you're going to be doing that season planned out, and when you are writing, especially you're usually separated into partners or on individuals, and you said, okay, write this episode, and you kind of hit the ground running, and you try to make it have a really strong momentum, but then you realize that you're having a number of scenes back to back with the same characters in it, and it's just going to feel kind of stale. So you need to inject other characters in there, and that's when you go back to the well of like all the others, the B, C, D plots, and see, well, where in this outline that we planned can I insert a beat that will move those stories forward, so I can break up this story that story focus on these set of characters. So it's just clever writing, good planning, and also being able to have all the other writers work as a team to make sure that those beats are acknowledged and built upon with subsequent episodes.
I've often wondered that because there's not with the shows from the 90s, early 2000s, not so much anymore, where everything, it can play your emotions. You're up, you're down, you're contemplating, now you're back to having your shortness of breath and anticipation of the next scene where you're being played the whole time through the hour if you're engrossed in it. And to me, I've always wondered, are some of these times the director and the writers are getting lucky, or is this all planned out like that?
Well, a fun fact, especially in television, is that the director doesn't really do anything other than say, act, cut, do it faster. Like they don't do much of anything on television. Like nothing. No matter what you hear about stories for like people who direct pilots or people who are directing episodes on HBO that are phenomenal, the director's not doing shit. They're just there to make sure that everything kind of goes smoothly, and if a problem happens, their experience is used to try and fix it, or at least get a performance out of an actor that might be tired that day. It's really the writer and the showrunner and the actual production crew that are making this show good. And even like cinematographers and people who are doing like just script work and stuff, if they notice something's kind of off because they have to pay attention to the script to make sure everything that they're doing coincides with the actions that are being written. If they see something's off, they'll bring it up to the producer or the showrunner and be like, hey, I noticed this. We got to fix that. And they're going to be the ones that fix it. It's not going to be the director. The director's going to listen and then obliged by whatever action is there. They're more than welcome to volunteer their opinions on it, but they're really just superfluous to a point. You could like literally have the director missing that whole day, and everybody on that set, if it's like within the tail end of the first season, they know what they're going to be doing, and they can go completely automated at that point without the need of a director. And so it really comes down to, for television, it comes down to the writing. Like it's just how much can you plan, how much can you get done before you actually have to start building sets and getting wardrobe and getting lighting and getting the actors. And Battlestar Galactica under Ronald D. Moore really knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, they really did, and I like just even the transition here because you're seeing the vote on the in the quorum chamber, and then it starts to get tense because you see one one for Zarek, another for Zarek, one for Baltar, another for Baltar. Then it cuts over to the victory party, and you don't know that it's the victory party until
Well, before you get to that part, notice the setup, right? So
Yeah.
as they're doing the tally, the commentators are saying, "Oh, it's five Zarek. Oh, sorry, it's 5 Zarek and 4 Baltar, or it's 6 Zarek and 5 Baltar. Whatever the next vote is, it's up to the president to decide who's going to be the winner. So if it's a tie, it's the president's choice, and if it's not, then Zarek's going to be the VP, and it just builds up that tension for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so now you can continue on to the celebration.
Yeah, and I thought that was a great transition, because into there, and then you see Baltar is indeed the new VP, and so there's a nice little conversation, between he and Angel 6, and then of course Baltar is in. There's 3 gorgeous women waiting for him as usual, and he gets whisked away by
followers.
He gets whisked away by his adoring public, and then of course we see a nice little interplay between Lee and Kara, where Lee is just he's in his dress uniform, and he's looking, and Kara's in this like knockout gown, and he's just like wow, he's just
he compliments her knees.
He's just like he's like a gape, and Lee is kind of like he has game, but he really doesn't have game at the same time, and so he's just like kind of just looking at her, and she's like, "Hey, well, what do you? Come on, you think I don't clean up?" and it's another cute little, I think, glimpse into their sort of future. The way that the chemistry blossoms between them as well, and so then of course Zarek shows up. I guess that out of appearances to look, like he's humble and in concession and whatnot, but
well, he's still part of the quorum, so it's he's got what he wanted. He wanted a vice president. Wasn't him, but he wanted a vice president. He got what he wanted. So even though it's not a full win, it's still a win in his book. He changed the course of what this quorum of 12 was all going to be about. It was going to be about Rosalind's plans that she got together based on like the colony's needs, and he completely took it off the rails and made it something else. Like there's power there. Then she lost that aspect of it, but she gained an ally that she doesn't trust but knows deeper.
And he legitimized himself through that.
Yeah, and he said he left an interesting thing. That I didn't kill Valance, but I wonder who did,
Well, yeah, he shouldn't even brought that up because he could have had plausible deniability. He named the person he hired to do whatever they were going to do. Like, no one publicly revealed anything about Valance to anybody.
Right.
So he just tipped his hand to... Yeah, he just tipped his hand to Rosalind.
They could have left that line out.
Yeah. And it would have been way more sinister. He'd be like, well, we got you. You should have just come up and says, congratulations on your VP. And now I know that in 6 months I'll have a harder time, running for your seat in office.
Raquel gave us a boxy theory.
Oh, nice.
He's serving her chicken soup during her time of need.
Oh, man. Oh, Raquel, I'm so glad to see you. It's good to see you. We've had a wonderful time so far, and Jane Theory joined us tonight, and let me tell you, Jane Theory is eloquent and awesome and knows her stuff. So we've been having a good time with Jane Theory, and of course, Adega being here, and You are missed, but we had great people show up on the panel in your stead. So,
if you're not sub to Jane Theory, you need to be.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Jane Theory has a wonderful channel, and we'll go down the list here shortly because we're almost done wrapping up the episode, so there's still a couple interesting things left as we get through the party. But
Adama coming into it is the best part.
Adama coming into it, and I like how Adama says, I'm a patriot. It's Colonial Day. Where else would I be? Because Rosalind asked him, she's like, I thought you hated these type of things, and he's like, nope. There's no place I'd rather be. And then he said, politics is exciting as war, isn't it?
But you die more often in politics.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's true. You can kill your career in politics and still be alive, and then when you try to run for office again, if you get back in, you're just as likely to lose that position as soon as you got it. In some cases.
And again, those of you that are fans out there of the sort of like romance subplots, this is a very, very nice, classy sort of foreshadowing setup to Laura and Bill and their future down the road.
Oh, they've been setting that up since the second episode.
Well, they have, but this is a really good moment for them.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is for a little while now.
I don't know what it is about television or any of those. Well, mostly, almost exclusively television, when they have relationships that build between main characters, and they come to a fruition, shall we say, too soon. It kind of kills the program, and it was nice that they saved that bond and they did the exchange of rings almost at the very end, almost the last minute of the show, instead of doing it like in season 2. I thought that was well done. Just let it go.
A lot of shows try to drag out those types of relationships as far as they can, but what ends up happening is a threat of cancellation because the ratings start to dip. So they then decide to rush, the unions of their relationships. One thing that Battlestar Galactica does is, although they do stretch out that bond between Will and Rosalind, they do their relationship does kind of move a little faster than what we see or what we would need in order to really sort of get on board with it, because there are gaps in growth between how they interact from the very first episode to where we're now. You could be like, well, they're kind of moving a little faster. Like, it's 11 episodes in and they're comfortable dancing with each other in public. Like, have they even had like a conversation, or where's that extra moment, that beat that says that yes, these two are maybe getting a little bit closer as friends with a tease of intimacy? Like, we're kind of getting that with Lee and Kara, especially in the locker room. You got that little tease of like he's changing right behind her, like completely naked. She doesn't even register it because that's kind of like the habit of what it is as soldiers where they are. But they're talking about, like, cleaning up and teasing her about, like, Kara not ever being ladylike, and then that sets up for a payoff later, which we end up seeing, and it kind of throws Lee off a little bit, but then he kind of gets back on track. But with Will and Rosalind, there's so much business between their conversations that there's not much. When they do get a chance to do a little bit of play, it feels a little bit more progressive towards an end result of a relationship than it is towards building towards that relationship. And that's just a curse of 80s, 90s, and early aughts television writing. The writers at that point, they know the character's relationship status more intimately than the audience, and they end up skipping some beats, completely unaware that the audience isn't seeing what they're seeing. So sometimes you'll probably be watching a couple episodes in, and then you'll realize, holy crap, why are these two so close together? Because I feel like I'm missing something. And that's the risk that Battlestar Galactica has. Only in this first season, they actually fixed that season 2. So
see, you had logic going there. I just thought Adama had the moves is all,
Oh, Adama does have the moves. Like,
oh yeah.
But it just felt a little too soon, or at least this episode came too soon, or that action came too soon within the numerical episodes that we have. Like, this felt like an end of the season thing, where after that first season they get to a point where we're like, yeah, we have a relationship, we have a friendship, we have mutual respect, we may disagree, but I like you, you like me. We kind of have a parental approach when we're dealing with Lee for some reason. So let's, do you want to dance? And she's perfectly fine to do that. It felt just a little too soon for me, but I do believe it still.
So then we get to really interesting thing here back on Cylon occupied Caprica. So Hilo and Athena are about to I guess try and get a ride out of there and to steal.
Oh, and the day for night scene. Ugh.
Yeah, and obviously this is at dusk or whatever.
No, it's not. It's supposed to be night.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not nearly
it's definitely
night.
not night. Like you and I both know it. We all know it.
Yeah, that looks more. I don't know. That looks more to me.
That's
like,
midday, and they're just like, put a blue filter on it. We'll call it night. And it's like, you cheap bastards.
Yeah, that was a little cheesy, but the thing is Hilo finally gets definitive proof that the Cylons are indeed that they have a model that looks like Athena.
They have human clone-y things.
Yeah, and so he sees her. The clone gets shot because at first they're tracking like two sixes that are standing out there having a discussion, and then of course the other Sharon model comes into frame, and then kind of looks at him. She gets shot.
Well, she draws her gun to kill him first.
Yeah, she draws her gun, and then she ends up getting shot
by herself. She shoots herself.
And then of course Hilo books it. He just says the hell with this, and it starts running, and then that's pretty much where we're left at, because now and we just see Athena like, oh shit, what's gonna happen now? And then we cut to end of episode. So
yeah, like he didn't even run for a ship to get off planet without her. He's just like, nope, back to the forest.
Yeah,
took off running.
Yeah, I don't know, like where exactly.
And she didn't even tell him she's pregnant. So like that's.
Yeah, where exactly is he running to again? That's what I want to know. So it's going to be interesting to see, and we're going to get into the two-parter, part one of the two-parter next week. I'm not sure how we're going to do Cobalt's Last Gleaming, if we're going to try and tackle it in one extended episode and do part one and part two in one extended episode of the podcast, or if we're going to break it down into separate episodes. So, I will let you guys know that are watching know about next week's show, how we're going to do it exactly. If that means we just run a little bit of an extended single episode and cover both parts. But we're going to talk amongst ourselves as a panel and figure that out. But yeah, this last sequence in this episode, I thought really kind of sort of set up that plot well, because we're going to see some interesting things happen in Cobalt's Last Gleaming, which is at the time it was a real mind blower for people. That finale of season one was crazy. So, anyways. Final thoughts on the episode. I thought that overall, this episode was a nice mix between political intrigue. You had a bit of the B plots with Hilo and Athena, and there could have been more of that, I think. But
that was more of like a C or D plot.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Because the B plot is like the assassination attempt.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got a point there. But the thing is I thought this episode was okay. In some spots, to be fair, and we did, I think, collectively point out some of the little bit of the weaknesses in it. I would give this probably a 6.5, 7 out of 10. only because while this episode was pretty good and it was still well written, that wasn't the issue. There were just some sloppy parts in it, but overall it was still okay. So I would say I'll go to a 7. I'll go 7 out of 10 for me. So Adega, final thoughts on the episode?
I think the year 7 was probably pretty much what I would do. We talked about the fight scene, which I thought was pretty ridiculous. And in some ways, I thought it drug on a little long. There was parts that could have been completely eliminated. And maybe that's just me. The pacing in the dialogue seemed a little slow. But in other ways, it worked. So I'm kind of conflicted on it. But I'm conflicted about a lot of things. So that there's no big deal there. But I think a 7's pretty accurate.
Okay.
There's a little bit of character building, little teeny bits of other things that going on, but the best part of the scene or the whole episode, I think, was seeing Baltar asleep in conference.
Yes. That was great. That was one.
Was he snoring? Because that'd be the cherry on top.
Yeah.
No, he was just kind of like exhausted. He wasn't really fully asleep, but he was kind of paying attention.
He was like doing the "I'm sleeping in class" sleep that we all know. We've all been there when we've been in college classes. But yeah, he was doing the "I'm sleeping in class" sleep. So yeah, I agree with you, Adega. It's 7. What do you think, Jane? What was your final thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely would rate this episode a 7. What I loved most were the reactions of the characters in different circumstances. I loved watching Rosalind and Zarek's reactions to their responsive power plays. I really enjoyed, even though it's very short, Hilo's reaction to or realization about the cloning. And I like Gaius's responses to his continued promotion, and just how that he came to terms with that. But yeah, overall, I love the writing, I love the acting, and this episode reminded me how much I love the show and the series.
Okay, fair enough. Script actor.
Well, I really like the new ideas that this episode brings to the overall series. There's Tom Zarek brings in the idea that we cannot maintain the system that we're doing right now. It just doesn't make sense. We got to start thinking bigger picture and what's going on, and that's clearly going to steer the show in a newer direction. Now that Baltar's part of the political engine, he's going to have some new power to play around with, and we're going to see how he's going to use that to his own advantage and see what's going to happen there. But we also have the roaming question of, well, who's going to continue testing all the blood samples for the next 60 years to see who's a Cylon and who isn't? And are they going to discover that Baltar's been kind of fudging the results or not? So you've got that looming question. It's got some great potential. I liked that it was a very singularly focused episode with each of its plots. They didn't try to make it...
They didn't try to reinvent the wheel.
Well, Ronald D. Moore will never be ever trying to reinvent the wheel. He's too smart for that. But they didn't try to muck it up with a whole bunch of other ideas. They picked an idea for each of the subplots, and they stuck with it and played it out to its logical conclusion. The only thing that was kind of a hiccup was the convoluted nature in which they discovered the assassination plot.
Yeah.
But aside from that doesn't really deter or make the episode terrible. It just is like, they could have probably figured a more convincing way to do that.
What was your fair score?
I don't do stuff out of 10. I don't know how to metric that. Like, it just doesn't compute to me.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a good point. It is tough to put a metric on things like that.
Bear.
Well, I probably give it a 6.5.
Okay.
Maybe a 7.
Okay.
Because the political intrigue that they show and how they handle it, and I found it very interesting. I thought it was different I thought they did it well. It didn't remind me of anything that was really in the real world.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching what was going on, what was unfolding. Good episode.
I think watching it now, we can look at it differently because there's a couple parallels to real world topics like the surveillance state, also transparency of our
but they weren't real in your face and overt.
No.
It was done well.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was done with
absolutely.
a logical reason as opposed to one out of the petty or egotistical one.
Right.
See, that's where I appreciate being in the audience for this show instead of being on the panel, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy being with you guys, but going through this show again for the second time, it seems like it's one step up towards the platform that I want to reach, and I tend to disregard those steps because I already know the story. But when I went through the first time, I totally understand your points, and you guys have a better ability of being able to stay on target. Where me, I'm constantly saying, you know what, I know where this leads. I have a harder time considering it. So I appreciate the story, but not as much as you do because I'm just too busy leaping ahead.
No, I get it. I get it.
Hey, it's hard not to leap ahead.
Yeah, it's very hard, especially.
Yeah, that just means you're getting enthralled by the story.
Yeah, and Adega, as a writer, I know you can appreciate good writing when you see it, and that's what I think is so good about the show, because whether you're a script writer, a novel writer, any sort of creative writer, you can appreciate that this writes on a very good level of intelligence for its audience, and I appreciate that as a viewer, as a consumer. So
this series is written by people with curious minds. They ask questions and they experiment with the ideas in the writer's room before they actually put pen to paper. And it's very appreciative.
Yes,
they
exactly.
actually cared.
Yeah,
actually, I've seen a lot of writers work on shows they don't care, but they just do the job that they need to because they understand the responsibility they have. There are a couple from, I'm pretty sure there'd be like one or two on Battlestar Galactica that at the time writing it, they just probably didn't get on board with the idea, but they did the job they did and then fell in love with it as they kept doing it, because that's usually the case when you're staffed on a show. Like you fight more for the job than you do for the content that you're writing, and then if you're in a good team and everybody around you is like, doing their job and asking questions and encouraging everybody to sort of go further or take risks, that's when you start falling in love with what you're doing in a writer's room, most cases.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. We'll go around the panel. We'll let everybody plug their channels and current projects, and we'll start with Adega, which, by the way, on a personal note, Adega is a great friend, and he's a pretty brilliant man and a gifted writer. So please do buy his book. And Adega, please explain your book.
Basically, for my channel, I started it for feedback for myself, to analyze, re-listen, go through it, and if you want, you can go along for the ride. It's just my ideas before they come out in print, and I had to pull a few things because people told me that they're gonna make it, one's another book and the third one is actually a novel, so you won't see those, but it's basically my musings so I could bounce things off myself and let my family take a look at them. So you guys are welcome along the ride. And the reason why I started writing is because I retired because of my health, and gave me time to put down things that I've had in my head. I got disgusted with the ideas have been there forever, but I got disgusted with a lot of Script Doctor, the rest of you guys know, the lazy writing that's out there, the people that don't care about the IPs or just half-heartedly do it just to get a paycheck. I don't know what it is, but I said, I've got to at least put my ideas down for myself, make it coherent, let it see, and then people like the ride. So that's what my channel basically is. You can hop along tonight. And I only did this because of everyone's indoors. And maybe if someone's interested, they could see my next project. I wasn't going to release it for another couple months, but I figured, give somebody something to do. So it's pretty raw, but it'll be there.
Awesome. And where can they find your channel, Adega?
Just look up Adega Outlaw. I'm probably one of the few, I was first one to use the name.
And Adega's also on Twitter?
Yeah, it's just Adega _. I've been there almost since the beginning of Twitter, and I hardly ever used it until recently.
All righty. And folks, make sure you check out his stuff. Adega's really thought-provoking, really good. And moving on, Jane Theory. Tell us about your projects you have going on in your channel.
Hey guys, my channel is here on YouTube under Jane Theory, and I'm also on Twitter at Jane Theory. Mainly I do movie and television reviews and some news and commentary for the entertainment industry. And that's about it. Yeah.
She's being very humble, guys, but she's again very brilliant mind, very good thinker, and make sure that you check out Jane's channel because her content is top notch. Script Doctor.
Oh, hey, yeah. I'm the Script Doctor. I have a channel on YouTube. I dropped my Episode 8 Picard review today, so feel free to check that one out. You can also find me on Twitter at ScriptDoctorPhD. But when you're done looking at my content, go take a look at Jane Theory. She's got a great channel, and she's just got the sweetest voice, and way she narrates her commentary is it just makes you feel good. So go give her some support. She's more than earned it.
Yeah. We need to rename you, Jane, to Jane Queen of Smiles. because you're very positive and it's like what Script Doctor said. Your voice is very soothing, and you're a very sweet person. So,
thank you.
Bear, where can people find you, and what are you working on?
Yeah, basically, if you don't subscribe to Jane Theory, the bears and the guinea pigs will come get you.
And considering
because
the way
they have joined forces.
And the way he drives, he will catch you.
Yes. As long as the kids are not in the car, in the van.
Yeah,
you can catch me at Bear Nerd Fun. You can catch me in the Fourth Wave on Author Stephen Walton's channel. You can catch the Fourth Wave Late Edition on Saturdays after the Fourth Wave later on my channel. There's also a new show that I have now. It's called The Four Horsemen and the Late Edition, coming for bad entertainment. And we had our first show last night, and it was me, Final, and Wes Moody. And I'm sure there'll be others that will join the panel. And it's like the Fourth Wave Late Edition, but it's a different flavor. And so you can catch us there on Saturdays, and the Four Horsemen will randomly pop up during the week. We will eventually have a set time for it.
Nice.
As soon as we get a little bit more organized.
All right, guys. Well, thank you to everyone in chat for coming out. Raquel, the best mod in the business. Tommy for modding.
Thank you.
Of course, we had DJ Odyssey here earlier. We had Lady Mist, as always, the lady queen mother of the Pegasus Actual podcast, because she's here every Thursday. We had, of course, Palanuki. We had Twisted Mind Collision. We had, my goodness, a cast of thousands in chat. Axonar Comics, Troy Pacelli, DJ Odyssey, everybody that joined chat. If I missed anybody, sorry. There are just so many of you tonight. You guys were awesome. And we look to see you next week because you want to make sure that you pack the chat. Cobalt's Last Gleaming is going to be off the hook to talk about. It's going to be great fun. So make sure.
Hey,
yeah,
Drew, something just occurred to me. You know how people have a hard time using StreamYard on mobile browsers?
yes.
Well, just so everyone knows, I have been using the browser that's built into the Twitter app, and it works really good. You can go to a different window, and it will not time out. It will not cut you off. It's the first time that I've used the mobile browser on Twitter, and it's like the StreamYard website was made for the Twitter mobile browser.
Because
Twitter has a built-in mobile browser.
Yeah, quite possibly. You might have a point about that, brother. All right.
Because I have had no problems. It's no glitches, perfect. I didn't get bumped out, nothing like that. No timeouts and nothing. So those of you that are on Twitter and all that, use that Twitter browser if you can't get to a PC to use StreamYard.
All right, so we will see
my
you
service
next...
message for the week.
Yeah, we will see you next week, folks. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. So say we all.
So say we all.
Stay frosty.